everybody.
What's up?
Hello.
Hi, Sam.
Hello, hello.
All right, everyone who's just joining, check out the chat. So we are recording today's call, and check out the chat so you can get some Xmetric. We want to say thanks to you for being here live at one of our live events and calls. So drop your deets, we'll send you some Xmetric. And with that, yeah, we have our first official Dashboard Teardown Showdown. All the cool things that rhyme with showdown, teardown. And today, DJ and Sam are going to take a look at your dashboards that you submitted. And we have a new rubric for peer review, which I will drop in the chat. And you will get review, advice, feedback from, the elders of the community. And they will also let you know kind of how you would probably score in the new rubric. So it'll help you navigate this new rubric that came to be with community's feedback and hopefully earn more tokens. I'm just going to pass it to DJ and to Sam to kick it off whenever.
Cool. And Marina, I may have missed, but do we have a dashboard you want us to start with, or are we inviting people to submit them and we'll just do it live?
We have 7.
7?
Yes.
Awesome.
We can go chronologically if you want. Sam and I both checked them out and they all look really solid. Everyone, good job.
Fantastic.
So just the chronological and we'll see how far we get.
I'm good with that. One other thing, if we could share the rubric for people to look at, that would be great. While we do that, I'll give a really, really quick rundown of why we're doing this, which you've already, mostly done. We want people to be able to score higher, earn more tokens. And specifically, the rubric that we have now is meant to help reviewers go through submissions and grade them fairly. And more quickly. We've heard reviewer feedback that it's really, it can be really challenging just to deep dive into submissions. We wanted to give reviewers tools to do that. And so we came up with this rubric, and we know that it's new, and we want to spend as much time with everybody as possible, walking through it, how to apply it, and looking at, its practical use for dashboards. So we'll do this session. Basically, we'll keep doing it as long as people want it. We welcome questions. We welcome feedback. So let us know what we could improve, what else you'd like to see, what questions you have. And over time, hopefully, we'll help everybody who shows up to these improve their dashboard scores. Sam, anything you want to add?
No, that's none for now. Excited to dive right into the dashboards.
Fantastic. All right. In that case, let's do it. Looks like the Claynosaurs. That's funny. I really like this project. Cool. Let's do it. Sam, I'll let you lead this one off.
Yeah. So I was glancing through this dashboard, and it took me a while to realize that you're actually comparing the DGOTs and the Utes NFTs with the Clay Dinos. I guess that's the first feedback I have. Also, just like looking through the whole dashboard, there's a lot of information. My first reaction, if you go to the second tab, the one that's KPI of Claynosaurus, like my first reaction was like, oh, these are like your basic standard stats, which are good, but then they get overwhelming, especially if you have like the total of everything up front, and then like the total of everything and then the daily breakdown in the middle section over here, where there's the teal and the blue bar graphs, right? And so I initially thought that this was somewhat like a overall metric kind of dashboard, but as I read through, it seemed like you wanted to compare how Claynosaurus is an upcoming NFT and how it's faring against DeGods and Youths. And because that's your intent, I feel that the dashboard should be oriented towards making those insights. So not having this like big stats shown, but really making your insights more concise and like here are the key insights or stats that makes Cleanosaurus better than DeGods and Youths. I know you've got I know you got info in the fourth tab that sort of compares between the three, but like I just feel like a lot of the insights here are duplicated and can be concise even further and to make it clear what are the key differences or key takeaways.
Yeah, there's almost two dashboards in this. There's your what is the daily stats update, which is great, and then there's also what insights, why are the projects interesting? Cleanosaurus has been growing like a rocket ship, and so comparing it to DeGods, the former blue chip on Solana, really interesting. But that doesn't jump out from the dashboard. And I also agree with what Sam said, and this shows up in our new rubric. Don't show the same information, just packaged slightly differently. So if you go to the daily sellers and daily buyers charts that we were looking at earlier, those are basically saying exactly the same thing. Like, yeah, under daily stats. It's not quite as simple as saying that these are four versions of the same chart. But if I were reviewing this, like, you could use one of these and then say the others tell a similar story. So I do like the just the dashboard theme, the premise. But the other thing I'll say always, and Sam mentioned this as well, like you only have limited space to tell people right off the bat what your dashboard is about. Don't waste that space in the introduction. Talking about what Cleanosaurus is interesting, and it wasn't a copy paste, which I like. It was an original, hey, here's what we're going to do. But give people the takeaways right off the bat, and that encourages them to go further into the dashboard.
Another thing I like to see in dashboards is if there are like interesting observations. Like if you look at that graph over there where the screen is at currently, the second graph to the right, daily sales count of Cleanosaurus. Like why is that? Why are there like spikes over there, right? And maybe if you dig deeper, and you might find some interesting observation, but most of the time you don't. But either way, it's a good angle to dig deeper, and that could be an interesting angle you could frame your dashboard around.
I'm good to keep moving, Sam. This to me would rate, and again, it's mostly losing points just because I don't have the insights right off the bat and because there's duplication. But other than that, I would rate this as a good, those are the things that it would need to get to a stellar. I do like this section as well. This is actually really valuable to have conclusions broken out in their own section. That's a neat way to display data.
Yep, agree. I just want to also call out that the SQL is very clean, so I appreciate that.
Kudos to you, Zach, if you're listening. All right, let's keep rolling.
All right, we got Danyar with Near Protocol.
Sam, we can follow that same structure if you wanna start, then I'll follow.
Yeah, let me just run through. So I understand roughly what the project is about from reading the first few pages, but is it necessary to put the bounty title in the dashboard title, or is that just like I wonder
No,
if
this is This is a good
Yeah.
one. It's been around for a long time. It'll take us a while, I think, to get this message across, but tell your friends, don't write these as if they were, homework submissions. I know for a long time ago, we used to encourage people to put the title. Title is something interesting. You're not going to lose points. It makes it a little bit more interesting. You might gain a point or two for something clever. But tell us in the title what you're doing and why it's interesting. You're talking about liquid staking on Near, having just a generic Near question right off the bat. It's going to hurt your chances of having people get more interested in it, which is critical.
Yeah, the Claynosaurus one was interesting. The people like the clay dinos. It's pretty good.
Yeah, that was clever.
But going back to this dashboard, if you go through the tabs like staking activities or user activities, most of the information here are the same, right? You've got a chart on the left that shows the TVL in Near, and then got a chart on the right that shows TVL in USD. I can see how these two charts can be together or just show either one. Same with your inflows. I don't see why there's a reason why it needs to be like two separate charts. So yeah, I feel like all this information can be condensed to like two charts max, and then you tell me like what's the what do we learn here? What's the key takeaway? Another thing I want to know is, because your dashboard is about linear, are these TVL TVL of stake Near via linear? Is that what the TVL is about? So I think some sort of labeling or description of the charts is missing here. I mean, I see that you have observations at the bottom, but always good to like be super clear up front in your charts as well.
I did like the observation section. It's nice and clean. There's, an appropriate amount of information here. It's not overwhelming. Can you scroll up for a sec, Sam?
Oh, Marina.
Or, sorry, Marina's controlling that. And go to user activities for a sec. And then scroll down a little bit. Yeah, the one that jumps out at me, 16 users in the selected time frame. I haven't looked at the SQL for this explicitly, but that would be worth talking more about. Like, that's a tiny fraction of users. So is it just this is a new project, or is there an error there, or are you looking, at a really condensed time frame? That's the type of thing that I look at and like, okay, so that's interesting. Tell me more.
Yeah. I also just realized that in the dashboard there is a parameter for folks to put their Near address. I did not realize that because I was looking at the tabs are all like overview dashboards, right? So what would be interesting to see, and I don't know if there's a way to like make this nice, but imagine what if the first page is sort of like the first tab is where users can see the results of entering their address. So that becomes like the hook. And then you go on to explain the overall linear metrics.
Yeah, agree. Let's go over to the conclusion. So this is a subtle thing to get right. It's not an easy thing at all, but it is something that the best dashboards will do. This is telling us a lot of information. It's not telling us why it's important, with a couple exceptions. So yes, it's true there isn't a notable growth of the users in linear in 2023. Okay, so if it's not growing, why is it interesting? Don't just restate the data that's in the charts. Tell us why it matters. This is something that almost everybody does. It's just restating the information that's already present in your dashboard. And I know it's difficult because it takes a little bit of understanding of a project and ecosystem. It takes research, and you could be spending that time, on a dashboard or buffing up more charts. But this is where we keep saying, less is more. It's okay to have fewer ways to display the same data and to spend more time talking about why is it interesting? Why does it matter? Why is it important? That's what we're really looking for. That's what, for me, it's one of the key things that takes something from good to stellar. Anything to add, Sam?
No, yeah, like you said, I just feel like I am struggling to see, like, what is after reading through everything, what's my takeaway? I'm finding difficulties, like, telling you what are my main takeaways of the dashboard.
Yeah, if, one thing, if you can sum it up in a single sentence, it's make it easy for your reader to know what's important. Let's keep rolling.
Yeah. Also, just want to note that it's like almost all of our comments are on the negative side, but doesn't mean that we're taking, doesn't mean the dashboard is not good. It's just we're tearing it down, right? That's the whole point of the exercise.
Yeah, this was good. This would be an easy 4 for me. There wasn't, grammar was good, spelling was good. It was aesthetically pleasing. It was informative. Yeah, I totally agree with that. Just trying to provide things that would take it from a good to a stellar dashboard.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. Looks like this one is going to talk about the same topic.
Yeah, for me, I feel that this dashboard is much clearer in terms of what it wanted to show. Like right off the bat, I can see that there are these 3 tabs for the 3 liquid staking protocols, Metapool, Linear, and Stader. So yeah, so that's a plus point for me. But I really don't like how you introduce all of the pools in the instruction tab. Like if you scroll down, it's just text. I mean, I appreciate that you put links and like tell people how to stake. But I don't know. I wonder if this is more like it's more useful as like a guide, like a personal blog / guide rather than a bounty submission. I'm not sure. Analysis. Okay, so yeah, I see this trend becoming very common. So if you go to the linear tab, is this a linear tab? So first you have sort of like the big number metrics, right? TVL and USD and year, again, not necessary to have it separated like so. And then, so you have that as good, but if you scroll to the bottom, you break it down even further in like overall by activities and weekly, which is really honestly unnecessary. I feel that you could sum up those already upfront in your, like the first part of your TVL analysis, right? I don't know what's it's, the data is there for us to look at like how many users stake and unstake, or like add liquidity, remove liquidity, but you don't have to like show that data as it is, right? Those are your research points. You then use those points to like make more concise findings or observations. You don't present those as like in your dashboard per se.
What I really like about this one is both the structure and the information that it chooses to look at. So if we stick it with, top staker, go scroll back down for me for a sec. I'll give a good example and then one that could be a tiny bit better. Keep going. Yeah, there we go. So we have the findings. It's super easy to find them and tell us what the takeaways are. Still doesn't tell us why it's important, but since we're looking at, like liquid staking, even just in this tab, knowing top 10 stakers and then being able to look at each of them, having them broken out by color, and then having a table as well is really, really effective. I love that. If it were up to me, this stuff would be at the top. I would put this right at the top rather than, having to scroll all the way down to the bottom. And then Sam, if you want to scroll up a tiny bit to the pie charts. Yeah. So these, this is doing pretty much exactly the opposite. It's not telling me anything. There's not a lot of context to, apply to these numbers. It's a little bit overwhelming with the same color just jumping out at me time over time. And in particular, the share of user and share of transactions are basically the same. It's really not effective to show two graphs that are showing basically exactly the same thing. So I would rework this entire section. There are 6 graphs, and I leave more confused than I was before. Whereas what we're looking down at the bottom, it's clear what it's saying. It's clear what the contrast is. There's a clear delineation between the top 10 stakers. I get that you want to do an overview, and that's good. But having 6 charts with 2 colors, especially pie charts, I think over time we're going to start seeing a backlash against pie charts from some of our data scientists. It's not the best way to display information if you can avoid it. But just this wall of charts is not doing it for me.
Yeah. If you could go to the cross-platform tab, nice use of the custom colors.
Yeah.
But again, same feedback. Like you're just comparing USD values and near values. I don't think it's necessary to break it down like this. If you wanna break it down, then there must be a compelling reason, right? USD.
Go ahead, Sam.
I just want to say the value log is just influenced by price, so I don't feel it's as necessary as the near graph. That's about it.
In general, there should be a really good reason to show both USD and near, and I don't think that there is. It's not all that valuable to show something in near terms and in USD terms, just because the near one is just going to be a function of volatility of the near asset. It doesn't change the story all that much. I would just pick one of them and be consistent throughout. That said, I do really like the comparison here between 3 of the major players. That really pops. It's sort of interesting to see over time. I think that's a really useful thing to be able to look at. Big fan.
If you could scroll down just a little bit to see that findings. This findings over here. So imagine your 4 graphs up top, right? Imagine you only had one, and you put your findings on the left side and the one graph on the right. That really summarizes what I need to know from all this, right? I think if you've presented those 4 graphs and these findings via that one graph, these findings, that way it's much easier to understand the comparison.
Sam, what would you rate this one, and what would you change?
I would still, it doesn't feel like a stellar yet for me, so I'll still have it in 4. But I think what's to change is really just removing content and just making your graphs more concise.
Yeah, I agree. I think this is the closest we've seen yet to a stellar. It doesn't quite get there. I know it's a change for people to hear do less rather than more. And so the mindset shift is do less, but make sure that what you include really matters, that it's really significant. This is not that far from being there. It's got I really, again, like the comparison between each of these. There's some creative use of colors. I think it gets a little bit overwhelming in this section, in the text section. I agree with Playwo. There's a little bit too much going on, but you don't want it to get to the point where it's distracting your reader. And then again, like, comparison is good, but don't just tell us a bunch of numbers that are visible. The conclusion isn't meant to just restate all the things that you can get from the graphs. It's meant to say, here are the most important ones. Here's what's interesting about them. Here's maybe my point of view on why this could have occurred. And then if you have any predictions about what might happen next, what might affect one of these to be more effective, what their roadmap might look like, anything that causes people to say, oh, it's worth looking into Stater or Linear or Metapool. Don't just restate facts. Give us something to chew on, something that's important or interesting. You can do that and also save space and time by not just having to restate things that we can find elsewhere. Sam and Marino, one takeaway for us, I think, and I know we've heard this feedback before, but it's really helping out, is make it super clear in a given question whether we're expecting just a recap or a summary dashboard versus whether we want people to really specifically answer a question or a set of questions.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, totally. For what it's worth, I see a lot of the challenge questions kind of zero in on the specific kind of blurb or prompt or questions. And when it's kind of a overview dashboard, mega dashboard, maybe that's the direction that the challenge goes. But definitely great feedback to include that kind of even more clearly in the challenges.
Yeah, I think if it's clear, then the intent of, even if it's even easier for the reader, right? Like, trying to discern whether it's am I looking at overview stats here, or am I trying to read what's happening? What are the takeaways?
Yeah.
Yeah, agree.
All right, let's move on to the next one.
All right, we have Mango Markets loading by Mo. And it's loaded, there you go.
If you go to the stats tab, the second tab, and if you scroll down to the column that says, do whales like mango? Is Pine Mo. If you're here, this should be up top. It should be your first page up top. This is your hook, right? This is what gets people interested to continue reading more. So yes to having, like this, even the picture is amazing, but make it up front and up top.
Yeah, I would give extra points for this picture. Absolutely. This is one where I'd be taking off points reluctantly for spelling and grammar. It would just run it through Grammarly, ChatGPT, have a friend look at it. But stuff like, the period is in the wrong place after indicate. A couple of those, if it's just cosmetic, if it's minor, then that's totally fine. But if it's distracting and it gets to the point where it's distracting, that's something you want to fix. But totally agree. Like, the more important thing, lead with this. I don't like donut charts, but this is actually a really funny one. 99.97 for number of transactions, other versus whale. I'm curious for your point of view on that, Sam. It's like, obviously it's not I don't even know what the word is. It's not the most effective way to display data, but here it is kind of effective, right? It shows that whales are a tiny, tiny, tiny fraction of transactions, and I assume we're going to look at volume and liquidity.
Yes, but I wouldn't use too many of this.
Yeah.
One thing I would say though is that in the previous dashboard, it was easy to see. It was easier to see data with the pie chart, but in this one, it's kind of hard to see. Like if you go to still in the stats tab, if you scroll to the newcomers users distribution, like I don't know, I have to glance over and see like which is the highest, and I wonder if this is better presented as a bar, like a histogram style, right?
Also worth calling out, it becomes obvious with a little bit of look, but if you're going to use a log scale, make sure to let people know that you're using a log scale.
Scale. Which one is using a log scale?
So the number of transactions over time, number of users over time, 1, 10, 100, 1,000, 10, 100, 1 million.
Ah, okay. Number of transactions over time.
I'd also say it's, a lot of these are getting at the same point. Whales are a very, very small percentage of overall users. So you don't need too many graphs that say effectively the same thing.
Yeah, I agree. Just want to call out for the pie chart again, right? If you have to use the pie chart, I mean, if you want to convert the pie chart to a bar graph, like a histogram, and you want to order it nicely, like from left to right, your categories. One trick that I find myself doing is, if you can go to the SQL Marina, just like the distribution of users by transactions, if you scroll up a bit. Yeah, that one, yeah. Wait, I don't think it's loading. Is it just loading very slowly, or?
There you go.
Oh, okay, nice. So on line 14, where you're defining your categories, one trick that I find myself doing is just say like when transaction equals to 1, then in what's that called? Quotation marks, like A dot, like one transaction, and then the second category being B dot, so on and so forth. And what this does is when you do create your bar graphs, you're able to order them in ascending order, so that your category is not, in random. They're not randomly placed on the graph. That's a small trick.
You want to go back to the dashboard? And sorry about earlier. My computer froze and tried to load everything at once. You want to go back or do more SQL?
Yeah, let's go back. I'm also interested to know like why did this user define whales as 50K trading amount? Like, is there a distribution chart that tells you 50K is the 1% of um, volumes in the list of transactions? I'm not seeing that in the dashboard. Like why this arbitrary number of 50%? Hey, 50%. I meant 50,000. Yeah, and I'm looking at the SQL. It looks like you're just taking any address who swapped more than 50,000 since January. It's not a sum though, Marco. It's literally just each transaction more than 50K labeled as well, I think. Yeah, any other comments?
Just that I agree. This is more than is necessary. I do like the diversity of, angles taken, metrics shown. I think this is very comprehensive, but it's, this is sort of a theme over time. Don't just tell us what. The user crossovers are good to look, talking about why user crossover is important. I'm not totally sure I agree with the conclusions here, but I think saying this is an important metric and here's why it's important, and then doing the analysis down at the bottom, like, this is great. This is what I'm looking for in terms of diving deeper into a topic. It's just the pie charts. I need to get Angela on to talk about pie charts. But this section I do really like. Can you go over to comparison for a sec? Yeah, let's keep going down. So this is, it's a similar problem with the analysis. I actually think some of the visualizations here are really good and worth spending more time on. But analysis is not just restating what's in the charts. It's telling us why, not just what. So that would be my critique. I know I sound like a broken record, like I keep saying the same thing, but that's really, really important to get right. Don't just tell us retention is different between these two platforms. Give us some sense of why. Can even use the projects and say, in my opinion, having used them, this thing for user experience, or this thing was confusing, or whatever, that can be helpful. If you want to scroll up to the top of this section, Sam.
Marina.
I'm sorry, I'm talking to you. I keep thinking you're in charge. Marina's in charge always. This type of stacked bar chart, I really like, especially with these colors, very snappy. I'm not in love with 3 different visualizations that are all saying the same thing. But they are at least different enough from each other that I wouldn't take off points for this necessarily. I just don't think it's necessary. Data visualization is so tough. We should probably have a separate section just on data viz. But the broad takeaway here is you don't need to show the same data a bunch of different ways. That doesn't add anything to your dashboard.
I would also say that the content feels all over the place. So I'm not sure if the goal of the dashboard is to look at Mango markets specifically, or is it to compare Mango markets with Zeta and Drift? And if the intent is the former, then yeah, there's just too many angles you're looking at. If the intent is the later, which is you're comparing between Zeta and Drift, then really what's important is your comparison tab. And I feel like your comparison tab can be its own dashboard, right? There's just so much information here that can be drilled down further into like key takeaways. Right now, it's just it's just like you're just showing graphs, and I don't know what to make of it. The objective was actually both. Okay, interesting.
Okay, another good one for us. Just write better bounty questions. That's a good call on Worku.
So I feel that in situation like this where you are asked to look at Mango market and do a comparison, then what if there is just like 2 or 3 tabs, right? You don't have to make Mango market stuffs, occupying 3 or 4 tabs. And then like I imagine you could have 1 tab for Mango market, and then maybe your comparison is the one where you drill down further, and then maybe that deserves 2 tabs. But I can totally see your the stats tab, user behavior, user crossover, all that concise, like reduce all the graphs into 1 or 2 and then put them together.
Let's see if we can get 1 or 2 more in here.
We got another near one by Z Sayed. Here you go.
Oh, this is for near social. Awesome. Cool. This is something that's come up earlier. I do like that you separate the question. I love these headers, by the way. This is, I appreciate the work that's been put into that. Restating the question is good. Like restating it, but not just copying, and instead saying, here's what this dashboard looks at, the way we're doing with the content, I think is better. So I think because you have the content, you don't necessarily need the question. But in any case, I do appreciate that this is clearly laid out right off the bat.
Okay. Not familiar with near social. I assume there's some sort of sign in and viewing of profiles.
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
Okay.
They're trying to make LinkedIn on the blockchain, like LinkedIn with GitHub.
I'm seeing this trend where people I feel the tab section was created to better organize content, but I'm seeing this trend, at least from the dashboards that I've looked at, like it seems like tabs are created for just about anything, where I feel that several tabs can be actually one.
Yeah, I agree. Say a little more about that.
post, comment, and likes, I feel like that could belong in one. I also feel like the reason by splitting that two sections into separate tabs, it feels forced. It feels like you're forced to create more stuffs for that tab unnecessarily, and that could lead to like chart spam, right? I'm just looking at some of these graphs here, and I feel like again they're displaying the same information twice basically. And I wonder if it's because of separating, similar things into several tabs.
Yeah, that's a good point. Let's take a look at some of the others. Very, clearly structured. And I also really like the way this breaks out. You've got two visuals on a line, and then it talks about what's actually happening here. I'm going to continue to harp on, don't just tell us what's happening. I see that the number of follows performed is much higher than unfollows. Yes, we can see that as well. Tell us why, or why it might be happening. You don't have to know the answer, but don't just restate the information that's in the visualizations.
Tabs are an excuse for making longer dashboards. Yeah, exactly. I think the trend has to stop.
Adding that to the list, we should talk about what the ideal use of tabs is.
I mean, it's fun to see people experiment, but this direction is not helping, their own work, honestly.
Right.
If you can navigate to the likes tab. So one thing I feel that can make your dashboard stand out. So if you scroll down just a little bit more, so one thing I feel that how you can make your dashboard stand out is, in all dashboards, the main stuff are the graphs, right? But whenever you've got data points like this table over here where it's text, I feel like you can highlight that as your main, like a hook, right? Like, what if you find interesting text or comments from people, then you can put that up front in your tab, and then that's your hook to then introduce other comments or like comment stats around comments. So yeah, I just feel like that could be an interesting way to like to stand out amongst the rest.
I agree with that.
I see one saying, update on MetricsDAO. Hi everyone. Blah blah blah. But it's interesting to read. I'm not like I don't get fatigued if I'm looking at all the charts. Some of the graphs here doesn't make sense. Like, what is that? If you scroll down to that one over there. Oops. Top users get unlike for posts. This is a scatter plot, right? But let me see why. Top users. I don't really get these graphs. Is this the top 10 users with the most unlike? Like, they could be. I feel like this is not the use case for a scatter graph, or scatter plot rather.
Yeah, the likes versus unlikes needs a little bit more explanation about why this is significant. Yeah, chime me in with what Playlo's got. just to restate that for the recording, if something like an unlike is not all that significant as a portion of overall traffic, you don't want to spend an entire page on that. It's worth looking at for sure. It's not something that unlikes aren't going to be so significant that they deserve their own tab. The takeaway for me here, Sam and Marina, is we should talk a little bit about tab structure and how to use it in some upcoming education effort.
It could be the visualization or the professionalism 200 series.
Yeah.
200 level series.
Yeah, agreed. Marina, got it right this time. Let's see if we can do one more here, and then see if we've got any feedback from the crowd. Let's see if we've done Mango already. I've got my eye on Polygon NFTs. Ooh, this is good actually. No, let's go. We'll do the flow on daily active users. Cool. This is an easy thing to call out. Don't tell us what flow is. This is a cool graphic for sure, but your real estate when someone loads a dashboard, the space up top is so important. Don't waste it telling someone what the network is. Put that later on, especially if you're copy pasting this from someplace. And if you're not gonna tell us where you're getting it from, don't make that the first thing that people see. Let's go through.
So if you go to the user statistic tab, this is like one topic that we emphasized during the 201 sessions. Like, I think the term active users is very overused and very under explained.
Yes.
What does active users mean and in what context, right? In this case, let me just look at the SQL. I'm assuming it's just transactions and then count distinct. Let me see. Okay, yeah, it is. Like, there are a lot of ways you can play around the definition of active users. What I like to do is active users for a specific activity, right? Like if you are swapping or providing liquidity, then active users could be the number of people who swap more than 2 times in a week or in a month. I don't know, right? Use existing data to even inform that how you define active users. If you just do count unique addresses every day, then for me that's just number of users, right? It's not really active users.
Totally agree.
To put in the methodology, but a simple explainer, like one line explainer right before the graphs will do a lot of will clarify a lot of things, to be honest.
This last sentence, the number of active users and the users has increased for a while and then has decreased. The increase in the number of users causes the development growth of the flow chain. Like, that doesn't tell us very much. This, for me, would be average at best. We do see it may be due to the arrival of the Genesis box. That might be the user spike. What's the Genesis box? That's the type of thing I've been looking for from other dashboards. Talk about an event. Tell us more about what might be happening because of that event. Give us some color behind the stats, not just the stats themselves. This is a good call out in chat. Methodology, good to include, but not something to lead with. It's not the most important thing. You've got limited time to keep people engaged, but talking about your definitions, especially if they differ from the mainstream, really useful.
If you go to the users activities tab, that's exactly that. Active users based on number of days of activity. I guess my first question is why? What's the significance here? And what does number of days activity mean? Is it just since the address was first created, or let me actually see. Okay, it's not. It is how many months? How many days are they active in a month? Okay. My immediate question is why? Like, what is so? Is it asked in the? Is it required in the boundary question? If it's not, my question is why? Because I don't feel like there's much follow up here. Like if you want to highlight the only one day, make it about the only one day, right? And let's go deeper in that.
We're about out of time. I'm curious if people found this useful, if that we were spending too little time on each of these, if we needed to be spending more time on the rubric, if we just should take one and take an hour and absolutely tear it to shreds, et cetera, et cetera. Any feedback you have for us, we'd love to carry on the conversation. Let us know how we can make these sessions better. The goal is to help people ship better dashboards, right? So anything we can do to help with that, we're happy to try. A huge thank you to Sam and Marina for letting me co-star with them. This is valuable to me just in terms of we should talk about tabs more, and we should do some more focus on data visualization. Some useful insights for me, but I'm not the one making dashboards. So send us your feedback.
DJ, I wonder if it's interesting for the next sessions to ask people to send us their work in progress dashboards instead of these completed ones. So then, like, ask them to tell us what they are thinking of in terms of how they want to structure their insights, what visuals are they thinking of, and then we can give feedback directly onto those.
That would be a nice change of pace. I'd be interested in that.
Cool, we might try that out.
Cool. All right, everyone. Thank you for joining us on this fine Tuesday. As I said, let us know how we can improve these, and we will see you at the next one.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Sam. Thanks, DJ. Thanks, everyone, for submitting your dashboards and allowing the teardown. And yeah, we'll keep these coming. I think let us know kind of everything that you thought in Discord. And see y'all soon. And don't forget to grab your Xmetric link in the chat. Thanks all.
Bye.
Bye.